So I think it's really important to listen to yourself. Like if it gives you energy and you enjoy doing it, I would say that it's probably for you. And if it feels like a chore, put it down. You don't need another chore. You have plenty of things like taxes and stuff that you already have to do.
Today's guest has walked the brave path from logic to intuition, from burnout to alignment. Julie Cyvonne is a psychedelic facilitator who specialises in psilocybin supported healing, helping people reconnect with their inner wisdom, release emotional weight, and rediscover who they truly are. A former attorney turned healer, Julie has guided over 300 people through oh, sorry. Let's start again. I wanted to say intuition, but it's intentional. Sorry, I've stuffed that one up all morning. Let's start again. All right, let's go. Today's guest has walked the brave path from logic to intuition, from burnout to alignment. Julie Cyvonne is a psychedelic facilitator who specialises in psilocybin supported healing, helping people reconnect with their inner wisdom, release emotional weight, and rediscover who they truly are. A former attorney turned healer, Julie has guided over 300 people through intentional plant medicine experiences that bridge science, spirit, and self discovery. Her story is about courage, transformation, and redefining what success really feels like. Julie, welcome to Positive Vibes with Nicki Dennis.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And we're pleased to have you, Julie. So, Julie, before you became a facilitator, you were a practicing attorney. What was life back then, and when did you start to sense that something wasn't aligned?
Honestly, I don't know that I ever was in love with practicing the law. I'm not a big subscriber to people being lazy or to even like this notion of procrastination. Ultimately, I feel that underneath those two things is a fear of something.
Mm-hmm.
If someone had no resistance to something, obviously they would start it. You know, maybe a little kid doesn't want to clean his room and it's not that deep because he would simply rather play video games. But I think as we get older and we're adults and we have, more clear motivation and desire to go out and experience life fully, that those pieces kind of fall away, and what we're resisting is something more deeply rooted. And so I can remember in law school just like having such a hard time wanting to like pick up a book and get into the text and read the assigned pages for the day. And it's so interesting because I'm actually quite a voracious reader. I love to read. I love to learn. Like
Mm.
now I love to read psychedelic studies. Obviously, I read all the time. And so I wish that I had been more in tune with myself at that time to kind of dig deeper into what was at the root of this resistance. And ultimately,
Mm.
um I think it was just a knowing that I was on a misaligned path, but because I also didn't really know what practice area I wanted to go into, I originally started in a clerkship, so working for a judge and,
Mm-hmm.
helping them write their decisions for cases that came before them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that would kind of give me a bit of a taste for a variety of things and see like, oh, maybe I really liked antitrust or
Mm-hmm.
property law or criminal law. Um, and, I enjoyed the process of writing. Um, I did like the investigatory aspect of, looking up different laws and crafting an argument. I thought that was interesting. But nothing I was never extremely passionate about anything, and I went into a few different
Mm.
areas of law before I fully left it. I sort of had one foot in, one foot out for about a year before I fully transitioned over into coaching. But it's so interesting now. I definitely like put more hours into my business
Mm.
or as many as I did into being a lawyer, but I'm so much more passionate about it. I'm so much more driven about it. And maybe that's because it's something that I own. It's fully mine versus working for a judge or working at a firm. But I'm so passionate about what I do and I feel so aligned with it, like as a reflection of
Mm.
my values and what I actually desire. And so I guess the short answer is I'm not sure that I was ever like super jazzed about being a lawyer, and that probably should have been a clue to me.
Yeah. So delving further into that, was there a moment where you said there's got to be more than this?
Not so much about being an attorney, but when I was practicing as an attorney and I was fully like, there was never even an
Yeah.
inkling that I would do something else. There was a very clear night for me. I was sitting on the couch in my house at the time, and I was just sobbing because I had struggled with anxiety and depression for, most of my life, although I didn't know it earlier because we didn't talk about mental health in my home, and I thought if
Mm,
you weren't contemplating ending your life, then you weren't depressed. Like, I had this very, like, strict notion of, like, very black and white thinking. Either, like, you have, like, suicidal ideation or you're not depressed. I didn't understand that it was, like, sort of a sliding scale, right, of what
mm,
that could mean for someone. But, I had gotten more, awareness around it. I had seen a
yeah.
therapist at that point. I had been on Prozac at that point, and I understood that that is what I was experiencing, and I was just sobbing thinking, like, it feels like this is a death sentence because at that time, I had gotten off Prozac. I thought that it made me less sad, but it made me less everything. Like, I felt very
Mm,
grayscale. Kind of like I don't wanna say blotto, like I wasn't, it's not like when you get too drunk and you're just kind of, like, numb, but it was like it was numb. It was a numb feeling where I didn't really experience any emotional intensity, like happy, sad, anything in between, sort of like zombie-like is the best way I could
mm,
describe it. And so I got enough Prozac, and I felt like I had done all this work on myself. Like, I had hired a coach. I had really dug into, like, mindfulness, and I mean, I was doing everything someone has suggested to me to, like, work on anxiety and depression, and I just couldn't, like, get rid of it. Like, I couldn't heal
mm,
it, and it was just like a crushing feeling of, "Is this just what my life is gonna look like? Like, am I just sort of doomed?" And that was really heavy for me.
mm. So our listeners out there be thinking, wow, leaving law isn't a small decision, as in it was a secure job and stepping into what you did now. So how did you find the courage to walk away and trust your intuition?
I think I like to view life as a river, and whether you think about like life force as God or the universe, or I kind of think of it as creator energy. I feel like the creator is flowing in the river, and you're in the river, and you can be a little stubborn salmon or a sticky starfish and cling to a rock. And I feel like I was that little sticky starfish, and it just got to a point where I everything seemed to be so out of alignment that I had no choice but to look at and think like, "Hey, I don't this life will continue to send you a message until you listen, and if you're
Mm,
not listening the first few times, the message gets increasingly louder." And so I always when my clients' lives feel out of control, I was like, "Hey, let's take a pause here, things seem to be adding up. What's happening? What is being communicated to us?" And at that time, before I even ever had that paradigm, I suppose, in my mind clearly. I had it
yeah.
sort of intuitively, and I just thought, okay, so like I had moved across the country to California. I had taken the California bar. I passed it in February of 2020. And in March of 2020, the pandemic hit. I was going to work for an East Coast law firm that was going to open a West Coast firm. They didn't end up opening because it was during the pandemic. So I was kind of up the creek without a paddle, didn't have like a plan B. And
Mm,
I was thinking, okay, clearly this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, at least for this moment in time. Something gets to shift. And I heard this woman whose podcast I had listened to for a long time. And she just said, "Hey, we're starting a coaching certification. We're going to, move through ICF accreditation. If you want to join, this will be our beta round." And I said, "Yeah, I do want to do that." It was very like
mm.
instantaneous, yes, intuitive. And I followed that nudge, and I've been following my intuition to greater degrees ever since.
That takes a lot of courage to do that. So you also describe your own journey as turning breakdowns into breakthroughs. What did that healing process look like for you personally?
I mean, it's messy. I think when we first start to heal, it can feel like we're drowning because in a lot of ways it can open up more
Mm,
floodgates. Like we were suppressing. I think a lot of people suppress a lot. We numb out a lot, whether that be through substances, food, Netflix.
mm,
We do things to avoid. And so when we stop avoiding and turn and face whatever it is for us, it it can feel more overwhelming at first. It can feel really frustrating.
Mm.
It can feel like I don't know what to do. This is overwhelming. It's also like not something we we learn how to do algebra and all the steps of algebra, right? But
Yeah,
there's no class where it's like, okay, this is what's going to feel like when you first decide to look at your childhood trauma, and here's what it's going to look like at step 5. And so it's messy, and you're messy. I mean, I felt messy, right?
yeah.
Like I felt like in some ways I was getting it wrong more at first than I was getting it right, but I stuck through the path because I had opened the door, and I kind of feel like once you open Pandora's box, you can't close it. I ultimately took radical responsibility over my life and all of the circumstances that were existing at that point in time. And
Mm,
I, I just clung to the life raft of the of the storm, and I know the only way out is through. And
yeah,
eventually, it started to feel easier. Eventually, I started to find my rhythm and what worked for me, and my tools, and my own inner voice, and trusting my own wisdom, and like stop outsourcing so much of my power to what the latest, Instagram reel told me to do. And
yeah.
I found a lot of strength and self trust and courage and surrender, and it's been beautiful, but it's hard at first.
Yeah, I think just picking up on what you said there, I think key is finding what suits you and not what's the latest theme on Instagram or Facebook. It's all about what resonates with you and what makes you feel good. So, Julie, how did plant medicine enter your life and what role did it play in helping you reconnect to yourself?
Yeah, I do just want to like extremely agree with what you just said. I think that was my biggest like pitfall when I first started
Yeah.
was I would pick up this journal about like, oh, moon rituals, like do these. And
Mm,
I was just so lost looking for an answer that I was trying everyone else's methodology on, thinking like I needed all of it
mm-hmm.
and not taking the time to really think like and ask myself, does this feel like ultimately what I tell my clients now is like, does that feel good for you? Because this is the starkest example, but like one of my clients can't visualize. She doesn't have mental
Mm,
pictures. I know that's not super common, but it is a thing. And so it's like visualization is not her tool. I don't care what
mm-hmm.
someone on the internet says if you have to visualize. Clearly you don't because she literally can't. So I think it's really important to listen to yourself. Like if it gives you energy and you enjoy doing it, I would say that it's probably for you. And if it feels like a chore, put it
Mm,
down. You don't need another chore. You have plenty of things like taxes and stuff that you already have to do.
yeah.
Yeah, my journey with plant medicine was really sort of uh serendipitous because I wasn't looking to be a facilitator. I had this friend who was investing in a company. He asked me to check it out. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, let's go see. I don't know what I thought the company was going to be, but it was like a company who was investing in manufacturing microdosing capsules. And he
Mm-hmm.
handed me some and he was like, okay, try these out for a few weeks or whatever and let me know what you think. And I was like, try it out. What do you mean? Like there was no instruction manual, right? So I had to
Yeah.
go create my own. And in the process of doing that, and researching, reading, experimenting on myself, I was sharing it with my Instagram community because that's what
Yeah.
coaches do, who market on Instagram. You gotta share your toolbox. And people were just so interested. It was like I also was starting at a very good time when like reels were just becoming a thing. So real reach was like my reach was insane for the size of my following. It was like
Mm,
uh, oh my gosh, like 20x my following for like real reach because that was just what Instagram the algorithm was feeding people and like psychedelic it was such a unique thing and
mm,
it just felt so again like the flow of life if the creator is the river like it felt like the creator was pushing me in that way and people asked me for it and it's like
mm.
your audience is always telling you what you want, why would I not listen to my audience? So I pursued facilitation and here I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what courage it was for you to actually experiment on yourself and to be open about it with your community. So, again, that just is about the trust in your followers, trusting you and what you do. So many people associate healing with big dramatic changes, but you often talk about micro shifts. What does that mean in practice?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to our conversation a few minutes ago. And thank you for that like those kind words and that affirmation. I appreciate it and I receive it. But when I originally started, I was trying to do everything. And in the
Mm.
course of trying to do everything and like listening to every single voice out there, I felt like I was feeling worse. I was accomplishing nothing. And I
Mm.
do think there are some people out there, like I have one client who she tells me she sets a New Year's resolution and every single year she does it. Like she just does like that to me as a person who's wired differently, like she gave
Mhm.
up coffee for an entire year one time and like all these other things. And I think 75 days hard works for a specific like brand of person.
Yeah.
But I also feel like those 75 days harder, like once day 76 is there, they're like, I'm gonna crush two pizzas and not move on the couch for, you know, 10 days. And I'm just gonna binge Netflix because they're trying to reward themselves for the
Mhm.
extreme measures they put themselves through. And my whole thing is like, I don't want to create a life I need a vacation from because I've done that. I don't want to create a habit I need to reward myself after completing. And I really feel like, so in a plant medicine, like a larger experience, so I do microdosing and macrodosing. When people have these larger experiences, they get so much like clarity and perspective and downloads. And it just
Mhm.
feels like they have a bird's eye view and they can see exactly how their life like wants to look and needs to look and is going to look, and so they have this feeling like I need to change so many things. And I always
Mm.
say like please don't do that. It's like setting a New Year's resolution and then throwing out every single like junk food item in your house and thinking you're going to go to the gym 7 days a week, and when July 8th rolls around and you've ordered McDonald's 3 times and you've only been to the gym once, you totally give it up. That's what
Mm.
happens when people are too extreme. So I always say we're going to make one commitment and we're going to just, it's going to be stretchy yet attainable, meaning it's going to push you, but it's not going to push you past the sweet spot of discomfort, which is like where
Yeah.
you're challenged, but your nervous system isn't dysregulated. So, if you've never gone to the gym, saying you're going to go to the gym one time a week might really be stretchy but attainable.
Mm.
So we think about that and we focus on that goal and that commitment
Yeah.
until you get to a point where that is like, I can count on myself. I followed through. I can
Yeah.
do it. And then we layer on another one. And what you find is like, there's a snowball effect. Yes, like your commitment is going to the gym one time, but because you're building self trust, you also are switching out scrolling on your phone for reading a book before you go to bed. You're
Mm.
also making sure you drink your protein shake in the morning instead of reaching for a donut. Like there's it compounds really quickly in a way that's
Mm.
actually more powerful than if you had
Yeah.
attempted to redo everything.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So that's micro shifts. For listeners who may not know, what is psilocybin supported healing and how do you approach it safely and intentionally?
Yeah, so psilocybin is the active molecule in psilocybin mushrooms. So there are different types of mushrooms. There are the cremini mushrooms. I'm sure most people have seen and probably eaten. They're functional mushrooms, lion's mane, reishi,
Mm.
cordyceps. There are psilocybe mushrooms, and psilocybes, again, it's just a type of mushroom, and it's any mushroom that has the active compound psilocybin in it. So psilocybin can be taken at large or small doses for the purpose of most simply it's like neural management, right? So it's an increase in neuroplasticity, which is the changing of the way our brain is connecting. It's
Mhm.
the increasing of entropy, meaning like the number of connections that are happening in our brain. And it's also the quieting down of different parts of our brain, like lessening blood flow to the parts where I call it like the Regina George, the part of you that isn't very nice inside your head, like, oh my God, I look like a cow in those jeans, or like, no one cares what I have to say, I'm dumb, right? Everyone has these
Mm.
mean things we say to ourselves, unfortunately, and we kind of shut up that Regina George. So she's a little quieter. And so when all of these things happen, they make the work you're doing on yourself more potent, more integrated, more long lasting. So I like to say some people feel like I felt. I was doing all this stuff. I went to therapy. I tried the prescriptions. I'd done the coaching, but why was I still anxious? Well, some brains are very rigid. They don't have a lot of natural like potentiality to change,
Mhm.
and they're going to keep telling you a crappy story until we like shake it up in there and provide a little bit more energy, and then we have the opportunity to rewrite those stories, to choose different actions and thoughts and behaviors, and like that's where people see relief.
Yeah. Wow. Just what you were saying there, you can see that you really know the product and really researched it and what it does to the brain. So you've worked with over 300 people. What transformations have you witnessed when people reconnect to themselves through this work?
I think the one that always like really stands out to me is this woman. She uh went through at the time like my sort of signature offer was very early and when I was getting started in this, and it's a program that has 30 days of modules. There's a training every single day. There's different things that you're doing. You're combining the psilocybin, the microdosing with specific intentional relearning activities, and she really
Mhm.
loved that, and she's like, wow, I feel so great. And then she actually went through every once in a while I'll run a cohort where I basically teach you how to do what I do.
Mhm.
And so she went through that, and then she came on a retreat, and she was like, "Okay, I think I've done literally everything that you offer." And I was like, "Yeah, I think you have too." So we were sort of doing our like offboarding call,
Mhm.
and so I always ask people, "Okay, I want you to think back, like before we started working together. On average, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling?" And 10 is like, I felt so good, like I've never felt better. And one was like, I could not feel worse. And this woman who I had known for at that time, wow, like 6 or 8 months, she said, "Can I answer a zero?" And I was really
Wow.
like taken aback. And I was like, "Well, you can." And so what I didn't know when we started
Yeah.
working together, but she was thinking about taking her own life. She
Yeah.
had 2 kids. Her father had actually taken his as well. So she knew like what the impact of that was, but she was like, "I was so unhappy, I felt trapped, like, motherhood was so hard, and I wasn't happy." And it's interesting, right? Because we hear this about, like, Robin Williams, like, no one would have
Mm.
known that he
Yeah.
was feeling that way and before that happened, and that's how I felt about her, like, if that had happened, I would have
Mm.
been so shocked to hear, because I did
Mhm.
know her sort of, like, socially, and I did not think that before we started working together, and I said, "Okay, like, well, how are you feeling now?" And she was like, "Oh, a 7 or an 8." And it was
Wow.
so wild to me to hear that. Well, first of all, because I didn't
Mm.
have any idea that she felt the other way. But, I mean, that to me is like, that's the power of this work.
Mm. No, that's a lovely story. So, why is integration just as important as the experience itself?
Well, I mean, I think that's such a great example, right? So what
Mm.
she actually, I didn't wanna, like, say this part, but it makes sense for the story now. So there was a company that offered basically a PDF guide about how to microdose, that
Mhm.
was half the price of my program. And I remember her, like, kind of like, tiptoeing in and out and thinking like, "Oh, I'll do your program. It's too expensive. I'm not gonna do it." So
Mm.
she's like, "Actually, I'm just gonna buy this guide." And I was like, "Okay, girl, like, blah, blah, blah." And so the guide did tell you how to microdose, right? And so she
Yeah.
felt comfortable doing it, but it didn't, like, have any integration built in. It didn't
Mm.
pair it with anything. It was very much just like a guide,
Mhm.
right? It's kind of like I'm trying to think of a great example. It's sort of like if you bought a book on, like, how to do different, like, exercises, and so you, like, knew how to go to the gym and do them, but, like, it's not enough you training, like, if you wanna see a real
Mm.
result, you need to know how to pair certain exercises and, like, progressively load and all this stuff. And so she
Yeah.
got the very, like, basics, but she didn't have the actual, like, program to
Mm.
change her physique mentally, right? And so after buying this program, she came back, like, a couple months later, and she's like, "You know what? Okay, fine. I'm buying the program." It's like, "Okay." So that to me is like it's not just anyone can take mushrooms, and plenty
Yeah.
of people have, let me tell you. But not everyone changes their life because it's not just the mushrooms, it's what you do with the mushrooms that
Mm.
take the magic of microdosing into your everyday life.
Yeah, it's that support and encouragement and coaching through it all, opposed
Yeah.
to just doing it on your own. And usually, when you need help, it takes a community to help you shift, not just yourself. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
your story is one of intuition over expectation. What's the most beautiful part of living in alignment now?
Um, Honestly, I would say intuition, like following your intuition, is a lesson I got in a few different plant medicine journeys. I would say up into about a year and a half ago, because I always say, like, if you're not integrating, and even me as like an integration expert, if you're not integrating, like you're gonna keep receiving the lesson. And I clearly was
Yeah.
not fully integrating, like live by your intuition, live by your intuition. So I heard it like the third time and I was like, okay, fine. Like I submit. I'll stop trying to think my way through things and I'll just trust the flow. So
Mm.
this year, I would say definitely within the last 3 months, like it had gotten stronger and stronger. And I would say it was like an 80%, but the last 3 months have been like 100%.
Yeah.
And some really cool stuff has happened. Like even in the last year, I moved to Kansas City from California, which everyone was like, "What are you doing?" But there
Mm.
are things that only could have happened by me moving here that have exponentially increased the quality of my life in like so many different ways. And I can't explain it logically, but it's just I trust my inner knowing explicitly. And I
Mhm.
don't have to explain it to anyone. And I don't. And I just do it. I know some people think I'm kooky or find it frustrating, but I don't care.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure a lot of listeners resonate with you, how you just follow your inner self to make your decisions, and you don't have to explain to anyone else, as you said. So, how has your journey changed your definition of success?
Oh, I was actually just having this conversation with someone earlier, but have you ever heard that John Lennon quote where he goes, in like kindergarten, my teacher asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said happy, and she said, "No, you don't understand the question." And he said,
Oh,
"No, you don't."
yeah.
Um So when I was an attorney, I mean, everyone thought I was super successful. I made a lot of money. I had really like nice clothes and purses, and I went on super nice vacations. And, everyone thought I was just like, wow, she really made it. And I was not happy. Like
Mm.
I wasn't, just a little dissatisfied. I was unhappy. I was sad. I was depressed. And now people are like, "What are you doing? You're building this business around psychedelic facilitation." And I really like have let go of this like need to perform with purchasing nice purses or like
Mhm.
I feel like that was all like trying to flex and trying to like prove something to someone through purchasing power.
Mm.
And last year it's a business where I have a lot of headwind. I have a lot of sort of resistance to overcome because it is still a controversial topic. And last year was the first
Mm.
year that like, I had a profit margin.
Mhm.
And like it felt like, okay, like this business is businessing. And so it has taken me some time, but I'm so happy now, and I get happier every single year, and it's like that no one can pay to be happy because I
Mm.
had a lot of money and I wasn't, and I know a lot of people who have a lot of money that aren't. But I've created that wealth of happiness within myself.
Yeah, and you really change the mindset of what we were conditioned to grow up to be, to actually grow up. And I love that John Lennon quote, I want to grow up to be happy. I will take that one. Yeah, that's gorgeous, that quote. So, what's one simple practice or mindset shift that anyone, whether they're using plant medicine or not, can use to feel more grounded and more authentic today?
One thing, I have two favorite I words, and I've said one of them a million times, integration, but my other favorite I word is intention. And even before I got into psychedelics, my clients used to say that my focus on intention was their favorite part of our work together.
Mm.
And having an intention is something that you can do, you know, uh, setting an intention for the year, right, is really like these New Year's resolutions, but you can set an intention every single day. That's a big
Mm.
part of your microdosing practice. But even if you're not microdosing, you can set an intention. And I do even before I hop on all these calls, right? It's like, okay, well, I know I'm going to go meet with Nikki. And so my intention is to be present, it's to be clear, and it's to be say at least one thing that someone needs to hear. You can
Mm.
do that before you go have coffee with a girlfriend or you go on a first date, right? Like my intention is just to have fun, to enjoy this process of getting to know someone and to be open.
Yeah.
And what I think about intention is like it's the difference between steering the ship in a direction and just letting life happen to you. So, you
Mm.
can let life happen to you, no judgment, but you're not necessarily going to get where you want. And by setting an intention, you exponentially increase that chance.
Mm. I love that. I love that you set intentions for all those meetings that you have with people, because then it just flows so easily. No expectations, just letting it open and trusting. So, what's one word that captures your current season of life?
Building.
Mm. And do you have a daily ritual that helps you feel aligned?
Yeah, actually, I've recently started. I have had a really big building phase. I've recently started. Whenever I feel resistance, I open
Mhm.
up my journal and I will just like write about whatever it is. Like, even if it's like I'm tired and I feel like I want to be done.
Mm,
And I'll end the journaling with a question like, what am I afraid of? What are the stories that I'm holding on to? What have I not forgiven myself for? So I
mm,
really like I get curious with myself, and
yeah.
we talked about, I think a lot of people avoid their big feelings. And I know that was used to be a huge part of my anxiety journey, but I even think a lot of people avoid
Mm,
their resistance. And basically, what I'm focusing on is shortening down my execution time on everything. If I
yeah.
feel resistance, I don't wait, I meet it. If I,
Mm,
have an idea, I don't wait to text whoever, I text them. Like, I just execute really fast. There is no open loop on anything. And that
mhm.
has brought a lot of peace to my life.
Yeah. I love that you finish your journaling with a question because then you'll be pondering on that and then that will come to you over time because a lot of people think journaling, they've got to have the answers all right there and then. But I love that technique that you use. So, what does positive vibes mean to you in your own life?
I think it means recognizing that there's a story to everything is a story, right? Or
Yeah.
interpretation of everything is simply a story. It's not like empirical, right or wrong. And um, what stuck out to me was this week I was walking my dog and I got stung by a bee. It's so sad because I'm actually the girl who's always like, I need to save the bees. Like, if a bee gets in
Mhm.
my house, I will carefully like trap it and bring
Yeah.
it back outside. But I got stung and my fingers like flaming red. It's
Oh,
swelling and the stinger's in there, and I like have to rip the stinger out. Um, and, it really hurt. It's not super fun getting stung by a bee. I felt bad because the bees are in danger. But
mm,
when I got home, I was like, okay, well, I've really been pushing, I've been building. And now I'm going to allow myself to rest on the couch, enjoy my dinner in peace, watch a show, ice my finger, and just like relax.
mhm,
Because it's hard to be productive when your finger is throbbing.
mhm,
And I every day on the my story at the end of the day, I put what made today great. And I wrote, I got stung by a bee on my walk. And then I used that as permission to enjoy the rest of my evening. So
mm,
it's whatever you make it, right? I could
yeah.
have been like, man, screw this, like screw the bees, but I
Mm,
didn't because I'm in control of my story. And I think like it's not about bypassing, you know, the feeling and the sadness and the hurt of what happened, but it is about recognizing that you have the ultimate control of your perspective around it.
yeah, and there's always a silver lining in the negative, so you just need to look for it and make it your story, as you say. So, Julie, where can listeners connect with you, learn more about your facilitation work, or explore your resources?
Yeah, I think the best thing for people is if they're curious about microdosing and whether or not it's even the path for them, you can connect with me on Instagram at JULIECYVONNE, and you can DM me the word journey, and it will send you automatically my really quick quiz. That's like, I
Mhm,
think, 10 questions to find out whether microdosing is the right fit for you, because for some people it really isn't. That's a great way if you're curious about that. I do have a lot of good information on there about microdosing, and my retreats and things like that. Or if you're curious, my website is the same thing, juliesavone.com. So all great ways to connect with me. But if you have a specific question, I'm very happy to answer. I always answer my DMs, and I'd love to connect with you.
well, I'm sure you'll be getting a lot more DMs from our conversation today. So, Julie, if you could go back to your lawyer self, the version before all this healing, what would you whisper to her now?
Oof. I was really scared. Like, when I can look back at it, again, I don't think people are lazy or really even procrastinators, at least not adults. I can just tell that I was really scared.
Mhm,
And I think maybe like just some reassurance, like you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And like It's okay to also get curious about why you're scared. Like, I don't think I even wanted to know why I was scared because I was
Mm,
afraid at the door that it would open, but, like, it's okay to dive a little deeper. Like, you're gonna be alright on the other side of it. Because I think, like, you're trying to hold it all together in the hope that it doesn't just combust, but I think sometimes you do have to burn down to
yeah.
rebuild, you know?
Yeah. Well, Julie, your story reminds us that alignment doesn't come from having it all together. It comes from having the courage to listen when something within us says there's more for you. Through your work of wisdom and helping people come home to themselves, you do this with one breath, one intention, and one moment at a time. So we thank you for connecting with us today, Julie. And if you want to enjoy and connect with Julie and her work, please feel free to integrate with our website and our social media, and her links will be in the show notes for you all today. So thank you, Julie, for your wisdom and guidance through our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a great conversation.
You're most welcome. And to our listeners, this is Positive Vibes with Nicki Dennis. Until next time, may you follow your intuition, trust your timing, and remember you already have everything you need to begin again. Sending you all love and positive vibes. Bye for now. And thank you again, Julie. Thank you.